Imagine waking up one day, going online, just to find that thousands and thousands of strangers are convinced that your entire identity is a lie. Well, that's exactly what happened to Korean rap legend Tablo. As you know, the early 2010s saw plenty of internet drama, but few scandals were as strange, intense, and relentless as the one that engulfed Tablo, the leader of the Korean hip-hop group Epic High. It's a story of misinformation, mass hysteria, and one of the most powerful online witch hunts the country has ever seen. Ready to dive into this insane story? Well then, let's go! Daniel Armon Lee, better known as the Korean rapper and writer Tablo, was born on July 22, 1980, in Seoul, South Korea. Because of his father's work, when Tablo was a kid, his family moved around a lot, living all around the world in several different countries, including Indonesia, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and eventually Canada, where the family settled in Vancouver. From a young age, Tablo showed a deep pull towards both writing and music. He started playing the piano at the age of 6 and, later on, switched to the violin, which he played for a decade. A talented writer, in an interview with Medium, the International Waves reporter Lim Woo-jin, Tablo explained, "As a child, I was always interested in telling stories. It didn't really matter to me what form my story took. Sometime during high school and college, I was heavily into music as a hobby. I enjoyed the fact that I could have something on paper first, and then be able to perform it for other people and gauge their reactions. I fell in love with that, and eventually, I leaned heavier into music. In fact, Tablo was so talented that as a teenager, one of his poems was read by the legendary Korean singer Kim Gunmo, who reached out to 16-year-old Tablo, and this led to Tablo writing lyrics for Kim Gunmo's song Rainy Christmas. Turning to hip-hop whenever he faced difficulties, Tablo also suffered from depression in his earlier years. Music was always his safe space. However, instead of immediately pursuing a career in the industry, Tablo has explained that his family pressured him into enrolling at Stanford. "I didn't go to college intending to learn a skill that I didn't have or to take my first steps into a career," Tablo told Medium. "I was coming from a family and a cultural environment where it's expected of you to go. So, I spent my college days focusing on things that would inform me of who I am, who I can be, and who I need to be." Over the course of just 4 years, Tablo worked hard to earn both a bachelor's degree in English literature and a master's degree in creative writing. An incredibly impressive achievement to accomplish in such a short time. This challenging academic experience not only sharpened Tablo's storytelling abilities, but also strengthened his critical thinking skills, both of which would later become a huge part of the musical identity that Epic High would be known for, especially shaping his introspective and often philosophical future lyricism. In the next few years following his graduation from Stanford, Tablo would meet his future musical partners Mithra Jin and DJ Tukuts, who became his very close friends. Clicking and connecting on their shared love for music, the three friends came together and formed Epic High, making Tablo their leader. Despite their passion for music and hip-hop, the road to Epic High's first album was far from easy, especially when, while working in the underground K-hip-hop scene, Epic High had their funds stolen. Eventually, in 2003, Epic High released their first record with Woollim Entertainment. While the company is now known for producing highly polished K-pop, groups and solo artists like Infinite, Drippin', Kwon Yunbi, and Golden Child, at the time they were making and releasing underground hip-hop and modern rock albums. With their first album finally released and the members signed to a stable, if up-and-coming record label, Epic High still struggled to get a foothold in the music scene. It wasn't until their third album, Swan Songs, that the group really started getting noticed by the mainstream public. Specifically, the title track Fly became a runaway hit, and, with the album, Epic High swept the end-of-the-year hip-hop awards as well as the charts. Today, the song and album are cited as an inspiration by a variety of artists, including BTS. Their follow-up album, Remapping the Human Soul, became Korea's third best-selling album of the year. Their music was filled with scathing criticisms and observations about modern Korea and the modern world, and listeners across the country loved Epic High. Epic High's success at this point was also hugely helped and boosted by Tablo's rising solo fame. Appearing on a variety of variety shows, radio programs, and other content, Tablo charmed people with his likable personality and fascinating come-up story. As Tablo started to appear on more and more programs, the Korean public was surprised that Tablo had graduated from Stanford, and he started to become an unexpected model son figure in the hip-hop scene. The next year, Tablo published Pieces of You, a critically acclaimed collection of short stories he'd written for class assignments during his time in college. Set in New York, Pieces of You gained a lot of praise from English and Korean readers for its emotional depth and thought-provoking themes. The book even topped Korea's best-selling list. At this time, Epic High also started to notice that there were some changes happening at Woollim as the company was starting to become more mainstream. Deciding to start their own label so that their style of music wouldn't disrupt their new label mates, Tablo described the situation to the Korean hip-hop site Hip Hop LE, saying, "If you think about it, even within Woollim, we were doing music like an independent label. However, because it was a company with other singers, there were a lot of restrictions. I thought that if we could get away from all of that, we could make music like real music. So I created Map the Soul, their first independent label. But unfortunately, one of the people I hired as an executive embezzled all of the company's funds. In fact, that's why Map the Soul was a mess and eventually closed down. This turn of events was a huge blow, but an even greater storm was about to hit. Having recently gotten married to top Korean actress Kang Hae-jung, best known for her role in the 2003 classic Korean revenge thriller Old Boy, for which she won the Best Supporting Actress award at the Blue Dragon Film Awards. In 2010, only a few weeks after Kang Hae-jung had given birth to their daughter, a group of netizens online began a conversation about Tablo. Particularly, they were starting to seriously wonder whether Tablo had really graduated from Stanford University. People just couldn't believe that a rapper could have gone to Stanford. What's more, not only did Tablo attend, but according to every record, he excelled, finishing as a top graduate. It seemed so surprising, to the point of unbelievable, that a scholar like that would move to Korea to become an underground hip-hop artist. The internet forum called Tajinyo, which stood for We Demand the Truth from Tablo, started turning into a full-scale conspiracy, drawing in more and more members, all determined to solve the mystery they had made up for themselves. Despite Tablo coming out with all the receipts, releasing his diploma paperwork, and more, people wouldn't stop digging deeper and deeper, set in their belief that if they just keep looking, they will eventually find something to prove that he must be lying. With the internet community growing, things started seriously crossing the line. Online, the Tajinyo members were making their investigation their full-time job. Determined to prove their theory, the members began systematically sorting through every old-school record they could lay their hands on, cross-referencing Stanford's official graduation timelines, and even reaching out directly to the university itself, sending hundreds of emails to the university's staff. However, when Stanford itself confirmed that, yes, Tablo had gone to Stanford and gotten his degrees, people just became more convinced that there must be a cover-up somewhere. In fact, they even started to spread the baseless idea that Tablo had somehow taken over the identity of a different student, Dan Lee, in order to fabricate this image for himself. This Dan Lee, who had gotten his master's degree in mechanical engineering, explained to Stanford magazine, "One day I started getting random emails from people in Korea who were violently angry at me for allowing some rapper to steal my identity. I had no idea what they were talking about." Can you imagine how strange and terrifying this must all have been for Tablo, who was not only being stalked by countless people online, but also had a newborn baby at home, and had no choice but to watch helplessly as his family was being tortured with death threats, and his personal information was getting ruthlessly leaked online? Tablo described the situation to Stanford magazine, saying, "Since my attackers were all anonymous, there was no way for me to know who was after me. I didn't know if the doctor who's putting needles in my baby is one of those people. It was terrifying. It was like I had stepped into the middle of a modern-day witch hunt." Desperate to end the situation, Tablo even went to the campus, official degrees in hand, in a documentary titled aptly, "Tablo Goes to Stanford." In the program, he walks around the campus, reminiscing about his time there and pointing out the changes that have taken place since he was a student. It would be clear to anyone that Tablo had gone to Stanford based on how he talks alone. He visits university officials and former professors, all of whom confirm that his academic credentials are legit. Despite this overwhelming proof, still, people found it easier to believe that Tablo had made up his entire family history, stolen someone's identity, and convinced Stanford's top officials to lie for him on record, than to accept that the rapper had actually attended the university. The more proof Tablo gave that he'd been a Stanford student, the more determined the members of Tajinyo, which, at some points, were more than 100,000 individuals, became to twist every new piece of proof as just more evidence of an elaborate cover-up. As the scandal grew uncontrollable, the resulting fallout hit Tablo hard. Having gone through one of the most extreme controversies of the time, Tablo told Teen Vogue, "The only silver lining I could imagine was that hopefully through this, there would at least be some awareness. And once I proved myself as truthful and didn't succumb to this and kill myself, hopefully people would see that it's possible to defeat this." But this was fake news before fake news. When you look back on it now, it was almost like a prediction of things to come, not just in Korea, but in the US too. Nothing has changed. Wanting to support Tablo, Sean Lim, a Korean news anchor and one of his friends from Stanford, reached out to their old classmates. Together, 22 of them started a Facebook page to defend Tablo, sharing personal memories to prove he had really been a student whom they'd known at the time. The Korean press and media reported on their support, but regardless, the Tanjinyo members refused to believe it. Instead, they doubled down, even going so far as to threaten Tablo's former classmates and anyone who stood up for him or tried to imply that he'd gone to the school. For some more context, as Stanford magazine explained in their piece on the Tablo scandal, in the summer of 2010, Korea was reeling from a streak of fake diploma scandals. It began in 2007 when the chief curator of a modern art museum in Seoul was found to have fabricated her Yale PhD. It didn't help that Yale initially confirmed the degree. She was jailed for 18 months on forgery charges, and a nationwide hunt for other offenders ensued. Prosecutors investigated at least 120 cases of diploma fraud, ensnaring celebrities, politicians, and even a monk. So, when rumors about Tablo's Stanford degree began to go around, the gossip naturally tapped into this national obsession to find the liars. And while Tablo had been a victim of a rumor, the problem of plagiarizing educational documents is a very real issue in Korea. In fact, just recently, South Korean First Lady Kim Ki-hee has been accused of faking her master's thesis and found guilty in a recent investigation by Sukmyung Women's University. If she will contest the findings or not, we will see. As for Tablo, whether it was the idea that Tablo had earned a degree from a prestigious university like Stanford, but wasn't actively using it, or the suspicion that he had been lying about it altogether, both cases were seen as an attack on Korean society's hyper-focus on higher education. Soon, the prosecutors looking into the case against Tablo reached out to him directly, requesting that he visit their Seoul HQ and bring his Stanford diploma along. When Tablo arrived, an investigator meticulously looked over the document, holding it up to the light, trying to see if it was faked. After interrogating Tablo for hours, the diploma was then sent to the forensics department. Naturally, it was found to be real. However, all of this torturous work to prove that he had been telling the truth this whole time was taking its toll on Tablo, and realizing that reasoning with the unrelenting online mob was getting him nowhere, in October 2010, Tablo decided to take legal action of his own, suing the most aggressive members of Tajinyo for defamation. The case quickly became a landmark battle over cyber harassment and the spread of fake misinformation in Korea. And because it was such a big deal, despite the overwhelming evidence in Tablo's favor, the legal process dragged on for over 700 days, finally finishing in January of 2013, when Korea's Supreme Court, yes, this case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, dismissed the very last appeal, sentencing a handful of the Tajinyo key figures to prison and/or probation. After going through the intense persecution of the Tajinyo scandal, for months and months afterward, Tablo suffered from severe anxiety and depression, stepping away from the public eye and becoming increasingly reclusive. Nevertheless, in 2011, while the other Epic High members were still serving in the military and on hiatus, Tablo took a bold step forward by signing as a solo artist with YG Entertainment, known at the time, of course, for their K-pop artists like Big Bang, To Anyone, etc. Speaking to Dazed about how his attitude towards the industry changed after the scandal, and in the process of making his solo albums Fever's Android 2, Tablo said, "I definitely made the conscious decision to shun celebrity. When my solo album came out, Fever's End, 2011, I felt I needed to get the music out, but I only did one live performance, and then I was done. My dad passed away, and his passing was the result of the scandal. He became very ill because of it. That's an irreplaceable loss, and after he passed away, I felt uncontrollable anger. I couldn't become a slave to it though, and at the same time, I had my wife and baby. The happiness they gave me got me through. Despite the hardship, Tablo persevered, and in 2012, after DJ Tukut's finished his mandatory military service, Epic High made a big comeback. Signing with YG Entertainment as a group, they released a new album, taking their first steps toward moving on as a group and getting back their place at the top. After successfully reigniting their career with hits like Born Hater and the Shoebox album, in 2016, Epic High made history as the first top South Korean artist to perform at California's Coachella Music Festival, cementing Epic High as a global rap group, not just a Korean hit. Their performance at Coachella not only set a precedent, but also made world headlines. Later, in 2018, the group left YG Entertainment and launched their own label, Ours Co., and since then, they have gone on to release chart-topping hits and were even invited back to Coachella after their many different successful albums. Throughout all these years, Epic High has made a name for themselves for their deep, thought-provoking lyrics that blend personal introspection with sharp social commentary that talks about real-life issues like mental health, societal pressures, and political tensions. For example, their 2017 track People Scare Me referenced the growing anxieties surrounding the North Korea crisis, while FAQ from Remapping the Human Soul directly confronted the hate and misinformation they've been faced with in their careers as celebrities and public figures. What's more, musically, Epic High has never stopped reinventing what their sound can be and has never allowed themselves to be boxed into a single genre. With their roots in old-school boom-bap hip-hop, on an Epic High album today, you can see them mix sounds from jazz, R&B, rock, and even Latin music. As Tablo once explained to Billboard, each member of Epic High brings their own unique influences to their music. As Dazed wrote about the group, they, Epic High, don't quite fit into pop, but they've evolved beyond a traditional hip-hop act too, and they've angered the underground community by daring to meld elements of rock, soul, R&B, and pop with their rap verses. As a result, though, they've helped to shape an open-minded attitude toward rap-leaning pop artists. Epic High and Tablo's impact on the Korean music landscape, sound, and industry is undeniable today, and it will be interesting to see where the group goes as they continue to sell out stadiums and release unique, one-of-a-kind albums. The Tablo, Tajinyo controversy is a terrifying warning about online mob mentality and the wildfire that misinformation and obsession can turn into. Luckily, despite everything, Tablo and Epic High have found the light at the end of the tunnel, turning their experiences into art and becoming more influential now than ever before. What do you think about the Tablo scandal? Can you see a controversy at this scale breaking out in the US? Let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.